Hey guys, we're back again. Another thing we wanted to show on the raffle car, probably in a little bit more detail, or talk about some of our experiences in installs as we went through the raffle car build. But another one that we use really extensively, on all of our builds here at the shop is the 9-inch diff. The 9-inch diff, the rear triangulated 4-bar setup. That we get through Australian Rod and Custom Components. So we extensively use the Australian Rod and Custom Components 9-inch Ford diffs. The thing I like about the using their diff assemblies is that essentially, I can ring up, Dennis, or I can email through, and I can then order an exact length. A lot of times you'll go to different shops or different suppliers and they have fixed lengths, it's 55 inch or it's 56 inch but as we all know these days, with different back spaces in wheels and tyres and, whether it's highboy or cycle fender, you've got to allow for different clearances. So being able to ring up and order, down to the last millimetre from a wheel bolting face to wheel bolting face is really important in our view. So just allows us to get that better product, I believe, at the end of the day. So this one here is a drum brake assembly. They actually do a whole range of different brake assemblies now. So you can go to a cast iron style Camaro caliper, or they do some Willwood options now as well on their 9-inch diff assemblies. So look, we tend to, because we're talking with hot rods and nostalgic sort of looking stuff, we tend to go with the drum brake setup more often than not. And I believe, the size of the brake shoes that you've got in these things, they still provide excellent braking performance. For a car that probably literally weighs about 1,100 kilos, a drum brake on the rear is more than sufficient. I get a lot of people come to us and say, oh, I want disc brakes all around, but you just don't need it, in my honest opinion. And you tend to gain a bit more clearance and it's a bit cleaner in the back if you run the drum brake setup. But anyway, that's our opinion. I can also order the diffs with any ratio I like, so this one's a cast iron, these are like a posi traction centre. We went with a 3.5 diff ratio in this one. Just to provide that sort of good mid-range highway cruising, but also still snappy enough off the line. So, but you can get anything from, I think they do 3.0s right through into the mid-4s. So they're all 31 spline, all billet axles. So yeah, really good product at the end of the day. And once again, fairly cost effective, when you're building a new car. Because if you were to have to go and try and find a second-hand diff, out of an XY Falcon or an F100, and then by the time you shorten the axles, you shorten the housing, you get someone to re-spline the axles, you rebuild a centre, you're going to be a few $1,000s anyway in the whole exercise. So, these ones here are not too far removed from that sort of figure. Pretty cost-effective, and you've got all brand new components in it. And the thing I like now too is that it's all built here. They have a diff specialist in their staff who assembles all of the componentry, all of the centres. So the Australian Rod and Custom Components diffs, another thing I get people comment on all the time is whether stuff's all made in China and assembled in China. I can absolutely confirm, because I've seen them do it here. These are all built here. Components are manufactured wherever they're manufactured, but at least you've got a diff specialist who works at ARC now, who is assembling all of the diff centres, all of the diffs, all of the welding of the tubes, the ends, installation of the axles, setting all your preload, your backlash, all that sort of stuff in the 9-inch centres is all done here. So really good product coming out of there. We've had zero problems with the ARC diffs, and we're using them in our personal cars. I've got one of theirs going into our panel truck for people that follow our personal builds. Our panel truck's going to have about 1,000 horsepower twin turboed LS in it, and I'm more than happy to run one of the ARC diffs in it. So look, things to consider in your installation of the diff is obviously things like your pinion angle. Try and get that, even though your forelink and all that is all fully adjustable, it's always better if you can set that somewhere close to where you want to end it up with. So we generally will set most of our stuff up with a pinion angle upwards of 3 to 3.5 degrees. That'll give us generally the same setback that we end up putting on the motor and gearbox. So that works for us. Other people for different applications, if you're doing a bit more racing, that sort of thing, you might want to point the pinion angle down a bit, etc. So, but they're all things you can fine tune. Once you set your pinion angle, the important thing is that then all of your shocky mounting brackets and so forth basically need to be zeroed out at that point. So they need to be completely vertical, so that you haven't got shocky mounts and so forth, or shocky bushes that are under any binding situation. But yeah, you can see from this setup, it all goes in. There's no bind on any of the bushes. As I said in one of our other videos, we've put a few Ks on the raffle car now before we deliver it, and it rides really, really well in the back. Once again, we've done a bit of an upgrade with the Viking double adjustables. I love them. We can tune our suspension in a little bit more than we can just a fixed shocky, but at the end of the day, they're a fair bit more expensive than some of your other options, but ARC also do a really good quality, more budget conscious shocky. So yeah, really happy with these setups. We use them all the time, but when you set them up, just take your time, get your angles right, your pinion angle, your shocky angles. Make sure that no bolt or bush is hard to get in, because if it's hard to put in when you reassemble the car, that means you've got something wrong and something binding. So yeah, things to consider, but we love them. We're going to continue using them.